Earlier we were talking about, and you had something, sometimes a little harsh things to say about the press. And I must say, the kind of press you were talking about, I agree with you. But I wonder if we can look at the entire press based on this kind of small segment of the press that goes in the direction of sensation.
It certainly must be a problem for you and for other serious journalists to, have to deal with those who are less serious and less conscientious. I've had feelings of resentment because we have a press office. I'm not that closed off in an ivory tower. People can pick up the phone and get a secretary or even get me on the phone. I've often asked editors, why don't you check? Call me. I'll be happy to tell you if it's true or not true. I don't mind if what people want to say. I mean, everyone's entitled to his own opinion. If a writer or editor want to say, well, I think Prince and Princess of Monaco are terrible, we don't like Monaco, that's one thing. But to put words in our mouths that are not true, or to quote us on things that we have never said, then I resent that. And unfortunately, there's very little one can do about it.
One of the ironies, it seems to me, is that the United States is the country where, for example, political leaders' private lives are the more scrutinized than they are in Europe. And
oh, absolutely. And I think this is a great problem for the United States. Certainly, if my husband was going into political life in the United States, I would feel like many wives do and say, don't do it. Who needs it? Who wants to be scrutinized to that extent? To give up all sense of privacy, all sense of home life, family life. For the children, what a burden that is. My father was in politics for 10 years when I was growing up, and I ended up by hating politics. Our phones were tapped. We were followed. This was very disagreeable.
You put your finger on one of the great dilemmas of democracy, and that is how much are the people entitled to know about the backgrounds of the people that they're called upon to vote for, and what are they not entitled to know about them?
Well, how does one separate that? There's always the right to know, yes, the news that's fit to print, but then there's the morbid curiosity, and a lot of the press want to be the first with a scoop, with a bit of news, so they anticipate an event to the point sometimes where they will anticipate it to, instead of just anticipate, they make it up. And then, they don't want to be left with egg on their face. I understand that. They want to be right there with the news before it happens. But as a result of this kind of freedom of the press, there's no freedom from it for the victims. There's no way we can get back. And there's no way that we can say that isn't true.
Thomas Jefferson once said that if he had to have a country without the press, or a country in which the press was controlled, or a country without the press, that he would prefer a country without the press.
Well, I think the press is important. A point of view is important. I think the more newspapers there are, the better, because it represents different points of view. It gives the public a chance to read many sides of a story and to make a decision. I'm certainly not for censorship. I'm against that, but I do believe that individuals must take a certain moral responsibility. It's up to the editors to take a moral responsibility. They make up captions for pictures. Of course, I'm talking about a certain type of press that invades our lives.
Sure.
I'm not talking about the political press or the international press. But pictures will be taken, and an editor sitting in his little ivory tower somewhere will write the captions that he thinks might be amusing or fitting or might sell.
How do you explain the fact that more people want to read the National Enquirer than want to read the New York Times?
Well,
that's really, that's the bottom line of what we're talking about.
Well, this is unfortunate. But, and I know myself, years ago, I was asked to speak at the anniversary of the YWCA. It was held in Philadelphia. There were celebrated the 100 years of the YWCA in America. And we were 4 women invited to speak on woman's role in contemporary society. One was Margaret Mead, the other Pauline Fredericks, Mrs. Martin Luther King, and myself. There were very few papers who carried anything about this. The New York Times never mentioned this. Yet the New York Times was very eager to write about my birthday party that was happening the next week, and what I was going to wear, and who was going to be there, and the frivolous, silly
So even the New York Times has succumbed to this.
Very frivolous at times, I'm afraid.
Do you bring it on yourselves at all? I mean,
Well,
I'm not talking about politicians because, I mean, they know what they're getting into when they run for public office, but in certain people, isn't it a price you have to pay for celebrity?
I suppose it is, and I'm willing to pay it up to a certain extent. I don't like being misquoted. I don't like being told, oh, Grace feels this way about this, or she resents that, or she... They don't know how I feel about it. How dare they assume my feelings? That I don't like.
I know that it's much too early in your life to ask you this question, but at some point somebody's going to ask it to you. How are you going to want to be remembered?
Well, I suppose I think mostly in terms of my children and their children, how they will remember me. I would like to be remembered as trying to do my job well, of being understanding and kind.
Are there any things about your career that you'd like to have remembered? They will be remembered anyway.
Well, I don't know. I don't feel as though I achieved enough in my career to stand out more than many other people. I was very lucky in my career, and I loved it. But I don't think I was accomplished enough as an actor to be remembered for that particularly. No, I'd like to be remembered as a decent human being and a caring one.
If you had another life, what would you like to do with that life? You ever thought of that?
Oh, well, there are lots of things. I've been asked that. I think, now, if I have to be reincarnated, I think I'd like to come back as one of my dogs. They have a very happy, nice life, and a very easy one.